Welcome, or maybe welcome back to Look Both Ways with Dave and Wes. I'm Wes. This week, Dave and I have a good episode where we talk about Fabio again. We talk about LeBron James's commute. But more importantly, we get into the Trump administration and how they're holding up some of the major transit funding that's supposed to be being distributed right now. We then get into FHWA's proven safety countermeasures website and how they've eliminated a lot of the things that were on there before. So things like road diets, anything to do with bicyclists, speed cameras, like those are all gone. And then we talk about Waymos and how they're still blocking bike lanes and what that means. So it was a fun conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. So all episodes are available at lookbothwayspodcast.com. Now, on with the show.
Welcome to Look Both Ways with David and Wes, pragmatic conversations about all things transportation. We are recording live stream, and my name is David Zipper, and I'm joined by...
My name is Wes Marshall.
Always good to see you, Wes.
Good to see you, too.
Yeah, we've got some fun stuff to talk about, including... it's actually less fun and more concerning. The transit funding freeze in the federal government right now. But first, I feel like it's important for people who are maybe listening and not watching live or on YouTube to just see the attire that we're wearing. You're wearing, it looks like, a normal checkered button-down shirt, which feels appropriate for Colorado. It's kind of your aesthetic, I think.
All right. Yeah.
I'm just going to keep going with your beard. It sort of fits. You kind of look like a urban lumberjack. But I am wearing a T-shirt today. Before I show what it is, I should just sort of explain its origin story. A week ago, I got back home and there was a little package waiting for me with my name on it. Wasn't expecting anything. So I opened it up. And I found within it a T-shirt. I'm confused because I haven't ordered a T-shirt. And then I see a face on the shirt. The face is a familiar one. It has very high cheekbones, very blonde, luscious hair. And I start thinking, what the actual blank? And I'm just going to show what the shirt is. Now I'm going to stand up for a second. And the shirt says in big words, read. And then it has in a huge picture. It's of Fabio, the model from the 1990s. It says Fabio from America's Libraries as he's reading, and I don't know why, a copy of Jaws, of all things. And I saw this and I was like, what the blank? Because obviously, for those who are regular listeners, you'll know that a couple episodes ago, I mentioned how when I was a kid in high school, I sold Fabio books at a Walden bookstore. So clearly it was a podcast connection. But I was thinking, who the hell knows my address? Do I have a stalker? And I texted a couple people did you send this to me? Did you? No. I was like, this is kind of funny, a little bit disturbing. And then... Wes, I sent you a message, so maybe you can pick it up from here.
Yeah, no, I'm guilty of sending you that T-shirt, and seeing it now in this, it's an amazing T-shirt. It really is a good T-shirt. Because somebody had sent me that durian fruit T-shirt a couple months ago, and right. I think you're like, why did they send it to me? I'm the one that liked the fruit, and I think they were trying to educate me because I'm the one that had not heard of that fruit. So I got a
so you're worried I felt left out. You thought
I was worried you felt a little left out of the T-shirt thing. So I thought, a Fabio one might be good. And I looked around for one that might be one that you might actually wear, and I was able to find this one.
I'm going to wear this to business meetings. Fabio saying reading a copy of Jaws.
It's got a good message, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And reading is important. We love libraries here.
I didn't know he had some sort of affiliation with America's Libraries, but I guess at some point he did.
Apparently, maybe the shirt is 20 years old. I don't know. No, in its defense, it was new. I had a tag on it and stuff like that. But I don't know. I was I had a lot of feels when I found out it was you who sent it to me, because on one side, I was I was sort of relieved that I don't have a stalker who like had gone and found my address and whatever else. But on the other hand, I mean, it'd be kind of fun to have a stalker, someone who actually like was that excited about the podcast. So I don't know. Like I know some people have podcasts that get like random things in the mail from time to time, and maybe one day I'll get there. But for now, at least I have you, Wes, and I have Fabio.
Somebody else did ask me for your address. They had something in mind to send you. See, there might be something else coming at some point. So,
are you serious? Oh,
I'm
God.
serious. Yeah.
Oh God. Careful what I wish for. Well, thank you for my Fabio shirt, Wes. It is something I didn't know that I needed. Let's put it that way. And meanwhile, I have a question for you, or just sort of something that I popped up. I was like, related? This feels no, but actually, it does relate to that maybe the same episode, like 2 episodes ago, where we had a lot of fun talking about why professional sports figures don't take transit and saying that they should. So you love the sports ball, as we always talk about. And I'm guessing you probably saw that LeBron James signed with the 76ers. Did you see this?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Did you see what his travel plans are?
I think he's going to live in New York City and take a helicopter back and forth.
Yeah. This is supposedly how he's planning to go to the Sixers games and practices. And what boggles my mind, do you realize like there's actually a precedent for this for 76ers players?
Is there? That's interesting.
Yeah, JJ Redick, who I think he coaches the Lakers, right? When he played 10 years ago, he lived in Brooklyn.
I did know that. I didn't know how he got back and forth, but
not by helicopter, apparently.
Yeah, no, because he had little kids. They were already in school in Brooklyn. I do remember that story.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I guess he got a car potentially. But the one that was kind of fascinating to me, did you know, like famously, Wilt Chamberlain played for the 76ers?
Yeah.
Wilt the Stilt. Did you know he lived in New York during that time and operated a Harlem nightclub?
I didn't know that specifically, but I am not surprised by that whatsoever. Like, given some of the stats that Wilt put out in his book, I think New York would be a better city for his 10,000 ladies number that he brags about.
I thought it was even higher than that. Yeah, Wilt was quite the ladies' man.
And nothing against Philly in that respect, but I think he had a bigger.
New York just has more people, so you're what can I say? But what was interesting is I read an article about this, and apparently it's about $4,000 for a one-way helicopter flight from Manhattan to Philadelphia. So it's like less than $500,000 round trip for the games, but that assumes that he can actually get there every time when, there's issues around wind and issues about fog. And meanwhile, Mamdani, the mayor of New York, has said we really have to limit the use of non-essential helicopters. And I don't know that I can think of a less essential use of a helicopter than flying a basketball player from Manhattan to Philadelphia for games and practices. So
I definitely want to say that. I think it is a pretty important trip that needs to be made. I mean, at the same time, I feel like
there's other ways of getting there. Am I wrong?
I mean, famously, Kobe Bryant and his daughter and some other folks did die in a helicopter crash going to a basketball camp, and because of fog and bad weather. So, I hope LeBron is safe. I assume too that he probably will have an apartment in Philly, just if he has to, have a practice and a game in like the same day or something, that he's not going back and forth like crazy, that he probably has a place to go. So I don't think he'll be
a crash pad, the next day. A sleeping bag on the floor or something.
Yeah, I think LeBron can afford something like that, especially. I'm not too worried about LeBron in this case, but yeah, I had heard this story, and I think it's interesting. I mean, when I was looking for like a tenure track professor type job, I did an interview at University of Wyoming, like an in-person interview, and I'm walking around like, oh my God, like how could I bring my family here? Like I'd probably get divorced like in 2 years. Like this feels like the middle of nowhere. But then some people started telling me a lot of the professors didn't live in Laramie, Wyoming. They lived in Fort Collins, Colorado. And they would drive whatever it was, an hour each way. And including, I mean, that's part of the country where you have some treacherous weather too. Like, so sometimes you have to go teach in that. And, the, I guess, location of efficiency mindset that I have in transportation, to me, that was crazy. I'm like, oh my God, like that's ridiculous. But on the way back from Laramie, I stopped in Fort Collins. I stopped in Boulder. I stopped in Denver. I was like, oh, I see why. Like this makes sense. And actually, that is why I applied to this job and ended up here in Denver, because I started looking around. I was like, oh, I should really take a look at that job at University of Colorado, Denver again, and maybe apply to that. And I did so pretty late in the game, and this is where I ended up. And it's because I didn't want to end up like LeBron, but in a car.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to know that you don't want to be like LeBron. I'm glad you figured that early on, because otherwise, who knows what might have happened.
I doubt.
Anyway, interesting little transportation tidbit. I guess that could have been a part of Word on the Street, but I just felt like bringing it up now because it was just so wild. He would literally be, according to all records available, the first NBA player to commute by helicopter, I believe. Although, wait a minute, no, at least between Philly and New York, it's possible. Did Kawhi Leonard do this?
Kawhi Leonard?
Kawhi, whatever his name is.
Yeah, I think he has a house down near San Diego.
San Diego?
Because he went to San Diego State University, and has a big place there. But he actually just got traded to Toronto, so who knows how.
But with the Clippers, I don't know how he got between San Diego and the Clippers.
I don't think it's uncommon for people with a lot of money in LA to take helicopters from place to place due to some of their traffic issues. And
yeah, maybe that's right. Maybe I should be more specific. I think I know that this is expected to be the first time someone would do it in the big cities on the East Coast, because there aren't that many helicopter pads in New York.
I think that was the first time Kobe was in a helicopter. I think he took helicopters all the time to that sort of thing. It was pretty common. It's like JFK Jr. died in a small plane crash. And I remember joking my wife once, we're not likely to die that way because we don't do that. We're not taking helicopters. We're not taking the smaller, dangerous planes. But, the Big Bopper and whoever else that died in these smaller plane crashes, it is a thing when that's the way you're living.
So the final message is, LeBron, be careful. You're going to do this.
It is.
You're an important guy.
I respect LeBron a lot, but being a Celtics fan, I'm not a big LeBron fan at the same time, but I don't want to wish ill will upon him or his friends and family. So
look, I think you and I would agree. We don't really need more helicopter commuters in this country or anywhere. But LeBron, in his, from a transportation perspective, has been a huge believer in bicycles. And he's talked often about how bikes gave him a sense of freedom when he was growing up in Akron, Ohio. And he's given away, I believe, hundreds of bikes to local kids in Akron. So he's actually pretty thoughtful about some aspects of transportation.
And you started this off with the fact that, we talked about athletes taking transit, and in response to our discussion, we got lots of responses of examples of athletes taking transit to various games. So that, at the time we weren't really finding examples offhand, but it is something that's happening.
People did write in, and we put some of those together in a little Blue Sky thread. For those of you who are on Blue Sky, if you scroll back a bit, you could find a few examples, because you all, our beloved listeners, did correct us with many examples. But now, are we ready for Word on the Street?
Yes.
Let's do it. This is the part of the podcast where we discuss a transportation topic in the news. And this week, we're going to talk about what I think is a pretty big and important story that was broken by, for my money, one of the best journalists who knows a lot about transportation in the United States. That's Emily Badger at the New York Times. And Emily did a pretty deep dive investigation with a colleague who was more on the data analysis side. I think Emily was on the sort of investigatory side, basically showing that the Trump administration has frozen transit funding for capital projects pretty much completely since Trump came back into office. So for the focus of the story is on a program called Capital Investment Grants, or CIG, which really is how we get transit expansion projects in this country. The federal government pays 60 to 80% of the cost, with states and local governments putting in the remainder. And this is there's really no other way to do a major project other than CIG. And right now, they're for the last like 12 years, including Trump 1, about 8 projects would be officially greenlit for funding after they'd already been approved. But we basically have them in the system to be able to start allocating money. But this year, there's a long backlog, or right now is a long backlog with projects that include rail expansion in Broward County, Florida, BRT, bus rapid transit in Chapel Hill in Durham, North Carolina, where I grew up, Blue Line expansion in Minneapolis, and the biggest one, a $2.4 billion project, would be adding, I believe, a second line in Utah to the front runner to enable 15 minutes service. That would actually double the frequency, $2.4 billion.
And that's in preparation for the Olympics in Salt Lake.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's an important point. And so again, 8 projects per year in previous administrations that are greenlit, and so far under Trump 2, 20 months, 19 months, 0, not a single one. And without that approval, these projects can't begin. And if they can't begin, that means that all of the costs are going to rise due to inflation and land value and so forth and so on. It slows everything down. It obviously violates congressional intent. And there's about $7 billion worth of projects that are just waiting to hit go once the FTA, Federal Transit Administration, says, okay. So I think this is a big deal. And Wes, I'm curious what you think.
Well, first off, I feel like whenever I bring up some article or journalist, you're always like, oh, I'm friends with so-and-so. This is one of the few cases I can be like, I'm friends with Emily Badger. So
I am too. It's not just you. So
for a lot of years. All right, fine.
How did you know Emily, though? I don't actually know that.
So when City Lab launched, she wrote like the first article with City Lab, and it was about my dissertation research.
No kidding.
Yeah.
What research was that? I didn't know this.
It was the street network research. So, yes, you're safer in a cul-de-sac if you never leave your cul-de-sac. But the types of places that we build around those cul-de-sacs, like those were the cities that are killing like 2 to 3 times more people.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was that work, and it was like their most viewed article for like a year there for some reason. So since then, like we usually try to catch up at TRB every January and have coffee or something. So it's nice to see she's still doing good work. I'm not surprised.
No, she's great.
Case, I don't know. Are people seriously surprised by this? Because this feels less like a plot twist and more like the part where they just do the thing that they said they were going to do. Because Project 2025 pretty explicitly said that this was the plan. I think Project 2025 even mentioned the capital investment grants in that document.
Yeah, it criticized them. That's right.
Yeah, the interesting thing here is I think I'm starting to see some maybe lessons learned on their side. Like in the past, they would have held a press conference and be like, we're killing transit projects. And they might have got sued, and then the transit funding gets reinstated. Like now, instead of doing that, they're just slowing down the final grant agreements. Like, are the projects formally dead? No, they're just stuck. Yeah. And now the administration can be like, hey, bureaucracy. Like, am I right?
That's right. That's right. I actually talked to Emily about this, and that's why she was excited about the project or chose to write the story, is because it feels like this is an approach that Trump's team, Russell Voigt and all those people, are using to make it very, very difficult to force their hand. Rather than canceling projects outright, you simply freeze them. You don't move forward. Yeah. And it has the same impact, but it's harder to prove in the courts. It's harder to just sort of definitively establish it because, like, the Trump team can always say, oh, we're supporting transit lots of other ways. We just have to be very diligent. And meanwhile, literally nothing is moving forward. And what I find interesting too with it is, like the bulk of the money here, a third of the total amount that is being held up is in one of the reddest states in the country, in Utah, in Salt Lake City. So the loathing that the Trump administration has for transit apparently exceeds its passion for funding red states instead of blue. I guess they feel like they can't. They probably would be happy to make Utah happy as long as they don't have to give money to those, daggone blue states like Minnesota or whatever. But you can't do both. So I guess they're just funding nothing, is by the look of it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It is worth remembering this is not just a blue city or blue state issue. Like, these projects are red states, swing states everywhere. And like to me, like what they're doing, like this is how you can kill transit without saying you're killing transit. But you also mentioned frozen and like frozen or being stuck. I mean, I think it's worth also mentioning that that's not neutral. Like when you're frozen, like costs will go up because these things will probably eventually get built. And like that irony is, because I think the argument against a lot of these projects that they're making is they're too expensive, like the cost. And the cost is only going to get driven higher by delaying them, especially given inflation. So they're shooting themselves in the foot a little bit because we'll need more money, and they're harming, like we said, not just blue states, like just harming a lot of people and like people that are trying to get to work or wherever else. So I don't know. It's sad, but again, I'm just not surprised. Like this, I'm just surprised they're not bragging about it.
No, well, I think they're getting savvier.
Yeah.
I don't think Trump is getting savvier. I think Trump doesn't have any idea of what's going on here, but he has some people like Voight who are savvy and realize if they just say nothing and do what they want, they have a better chance of success longer term. Obviously, this is a violation of congressional intent.
Yeah.
So this is bad. This is not what should be happening. It is inappropriate exercising of executive power in violation of legislative intent. But it's just hard to prove. And it's just every time you think that there's that there's a new, you're right. Like maybe we should be surprised. Every time I think there's a bottom for what the Trump team will do with transportation, it seems to just keep getting worse. We're about to talk about another problem too along those lines.
But I do feel bad for these places because local governments spend years like following the process, dotting the I's, crossing the T, like lining up local funding, like doing the environmental reviews, like getting ratings, like waiting their turn. And they get to the end and it kind of now depends on whether the current administration likes transit or not. And that is a breakdown of the whole system. And it's sad.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. It's sad. It's frustrating, and it's wrong, quite bluntly. And it's frankly, when the story broke, I was happy to see that it got some good traction. It seemed like people were really up in arms about it, and I'm hoping that a lot of people, including in red states, are complaining to their elected leaders about it in Congress because I think if anything can get this unstuck, it would be hearing from Republicans in the Senate and the House being like, "What the hell are you doing?" So it's a problem, and it's something that we should be aware of. And knock on wood, come January of next year, hopefully we'll be able to be a little bit. We'll grow a spine in the legislative body, shall we say? Dare to dream.
Yeah, that sounds nice, but it's hard to put my eggs in that basket.
Well, TBD. We'll be doing a lot more podcasts between now and then, so we shall see. All right, let's move on to Roundabout. This is the part of the podcast where Wes and I each pick a topic that we think is worth talking about. And this episode, we're both going to be talking about biking and threats to biking, which come from a couple different places. And I think we're sticking with the federal government at first, Wes, because you want to talk about something that's up in Washington with biking, right?
Yeah, so I want to talk about something that is kind of weird, kind of small, but maybe not small at all. And that's why I want to talk about it. So FHWA, Federal Highway, has this website called Proven Safety Countermeasures, which is supposed to be one of the clearest federal resources for like things that we know, so interventions we can do that can reduce injuries and deaths on our roadways. And like I remember when they put this together, like in I think 2021, like they were digging through the research to try to find stuff that the research actually supports. So like, this stuff is supposed to be for real. And the website used to say a few weeks ago that there were 28 proven safety countermeasures and strategies, but one day a few weeks ago there were only 23 items left remaining on that list. The 5 that seemed to have disappeared were not random. Bicycling basically disappeared as a mode entirely. So bike lanes, any other bike-related treatment, no longer on the list. Road diets, gone. Speed safety cameras, gone. Variable speed limits also appear to be gone. So we're talking about some of the basic tools that cities use to slow down cars, to reduce conflicts, to make streets safer for people, and especially for people outside of vehicles. FHWA still had the number 28 up there when I first saw it. They fixed that, so they cleaned that up. And they don't even have any number listed anymore, but that doesn't really speak to the bigger question. So I guess my question for you, David, is does this even matter? Because as far as I can tell, like these countermeasures are not any less proven today than they were before. Like the evidence didn't change. So what changed is whether FHWA is choosing to name them on a website.
Yeah, certainly the science has not changed. In fact, that's exactly the point that NACTO, the National Association of City Transportation Officials, made a few days ago when they put out a release. This is the Association of City DOTs, effectively nationwide, and said, look, FHWA may have removed from its website these 5 countermeasures, but the science hasn't changed. We've saved them, and we're happy to share with you information here about how you can save lives through them. So the science has clearly not changed. And by the way, USDOT kind of can't get out of its own way with this stuff. Like I just wrote an article today as we're recording this about speed safety cameras and noted that that it was sort of erased from this list that you're referring to from FHWA. But Wes, you're probably familiar with countermeasures at work, the other document that NHTSA has. Well, speed safety cameras are listed there as one of the most effective countermeasures for reducing speed-based crashing. So it's still there last I checked, as of a few days ago. So you still have USDOT contradicting itself by removing speed safety cameras from one place, but leaving it in its sort of baseline document in another. So does this matter, your question? I'd say kind of, because in a lot of places, you have local engineers and cities that cite what USDOT has online to justify its suggestions. So that does matter. But there's also a bit of a Streisand effect here, where the fact that these countermeasures were removed from the website has created a flurry of media attention, including, I think, NPR, National Public Radio, covered it. So now probably people are more aware than they were before, I think, overall, that these things work. So I don't know how it all plays out, but it's stupid no matter what.
Well, now you've just alerted them to where else they need to look on their website to whitewash and cleanse.
They'll find it eventually, probably.
So
but seriously,
I was looking at that NPR article this morning. So they reached out to USDOT, and let me read you some of the quotes that the USDOT said in response to this. So the DOT is, quote, taking action to reverse the last administration's policies that decrease lane capacity and increase congestion. Drivers paying taxes and vehicle fees expect their dollars to be reinvested in our roads, not social initiatives that burden their commutes. Under Secretary Duffy, the department is getting back to basics and putting safety first.
Yeah, really putting safety first by...
that last part of his quote there is like... We're putting safety first by taking away things that we know make our streets safer.
Yeah, we're putting safety first by trying to help cars go faster is what it sounds like. It makes no sense whatsoever. You're the traffic engineer, Wes. Like if you actually remove like safety cameras and things like that, do you actually end up with the traffic flowing faster? Because then you have a bigger range, right? And how fast the vehicles are going, which just sort of mucks up the flow on a roadway. Or am I crazy?
Oh, not at all. And even road diets. Like I just watched the Changing Lanes documentary this we had a showing here in Denver. I was on a panel after it. And like the whole divisiveness of that story is like McGinnis Boulevard in Brooklyn, and they're fighting over whether to do a road diet or whether to like increase traffic congestion. And I was like, oh my God, that's not even like the argument should be. Like a good road diet does not increase traffic congestion. It should help it flow better. And it doesn't even decrease capacity if you have turning lanes at intersections in a lot of cases either. So
and you want to explain really quickly, how does a good road diet help traffic flow faster? That may not be intuitive to everyone.
Well, if you have like a 4-lane road, 2 lanes in each direction, and you have like cars trying to take a left off of a road like that, you have other cars backing up behind them. Like when you have a road die, you only have one lane of through traffic in each direction, but you'll have turning lanes and intersections. You'll have like left turn pockets where cars can pull into before taking the left turn. And the overall flow ends up being about the same. You can still get as many cars through that, but they're doing so at a slower speed and they're doing so more efficiently. So like that argument is kind of a red herring a lot of times, just to give people something to fight about. And like the reality is so not what the arguments are usually about.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So,
and in this case too, they're taking funding away from bike lanes and stuff like that as well.
and speed safety cameras too. That's just one that's top of mind to me as well.
No, because there was a tweet that Sean Duffy put out, when was that? A few weeks ago, where like he said that they're redirecting $1.73 billion in the DOT grants away from Biden-era DEI pet projects. He starts it off with, he said, remember when Biden, and he wrote, boot edge, use your money for DEI bike lanes and climate change, ? That's over.
Yeah, which let everybody wonder what the hell is a DEI bike lane? And I have no answer because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
So like they're taking away funding not just from transit, but from things that should make us safer. Yeah. And transit is on that list too. Like transit is a proven safety countermeasure, even though it's not something that is usually talked about as something that helps safety. But every city that has more people using transit is safer for everybody.
Yep. I think that's it. That's a point that needs to be talked about a whole lot more. Like on a per passenger mile basis, you are literally talking about orders of magnitude difference in safety for those who are on a bus or a train versus those who are in a car, including a giant SUV. It's still better to be in transit.
But here's the thing, that we're going to end up in a position where probably the safety numbers for this year are going to look better. Not because of any of the stuff they're doing in this front, but because gas prices are so high. Like we're going to end up with probably a good year in general because gas prices are so high and people are driving a lot less. And they're going to shout from the rooftops that they solve safety because they got rid of bike lanes and transit.
I mean, that's a pretty like you get no bonus points from me for that prediction because they're already doing it, Wes. Did you see that? Yeah, sorry, dude. Try harder. But did you see they had an announcement like from NHTSA a few weeks ago, congratulating themselves for the lowest. What did they say? Like the lowest. The biggest decline in deaths per mile driven, like on record or something like that. Well, first of all, that's the wrong metric. We should be looking at deaths per capita, not deaths per mile. And also, we're still, even whatever metric you want, we're still right around where we were before COVID. So we've not made any progress. And then there was just a study that came out today showing that if you actually do what you should do, which is compare deaths per capita in the US and trends there and from crashes to other peer nations, we are by far the outlier. We're terrible. Had we just had the comparable safety benefit to a basket of 14 other countries between 2000 and 2024, the U.S. would have seen 500,000 lives saved. Yeah, 500,000.
I used to do graphs like that in some of my presentations where it compares like if we were as safe as like Australia or Sweden or whatever else, and you can see like how much we save in 1 year, 10 years, and it ends up being like hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah. No, it really is. Like the idea of sort of like patting yourself on the back for a job well done at NHTSA is just egregious and disgusting to me. But you're right. You're definitely Duffy's going to do it for sure.
By the way, I'm surprised that is you said that was like a published paper, because I always did that as kind of back of the envelope calculations I would throw in a presentation. I never thought to try to publish it as a paper.
It was a published paper by, I realized after I'd shared it online, it was by I think it was a data scientist, not an academic, and it was not in one of the absolute top tier journals. But whatever, the finding is what the finding is. And I think it's important to get the message out there.
No, I was doing graphs like that back with like my dissertation work in like 2007. So
yeah, I mean, it's important to know, right? It's important to keep in mind.
It's useful context. And because you can also pick, it's one thing to pick countries like Sweden, but it's another thing to do with like Canada. right?
Oh,
You know, you can do the same thing, and you're like, what? Like, if we were as safe as Canada, we'd save all these people. And I think a lot of Americans, like, that is what strikes them more than some of those like European.
Yeah, no, I love
countries.
I was just in Canada a few weeks ago. Like today, I wrote a story about what happened in Ontario when Doug Ford, the premier, who was my villain of the year, 2025. Flashback to end of year episode in December, Wes. But he banned cities across Ontario for using automatic speed cameras and
let me guess what happened.
Yeah. You want to go ahead, Wes? Go ahead. I'm on tenterhooks here. What do you think happened?
Did it get less safe?
Oh my God, you nailed it. The amount of speeding went way up. It was really surprising to no one. No, but I wrote that story in part because I agree with you that I think that what happens in Canada resonates in the US in a way that what happens in Japan or what happens in Sweden does. It's too easy to brush it aside. And it's true. Like the last records I saw, I've written about Canada a bunch for exactly this reason. The average American is more than 2 times as likely to die in a crash in a given year than the average Canadian. And they love cars. It's a spacious, wide open country. And yet they are way safer than us. And I think it's important to ask ourselves why.
Isn't DC possibly getting rid of their cameras too?
Well, not voluntarily. Congress is trying to, the Republicans in Congress are trying to basically force DC to close its speed camera and red light camera programs. And that hasn't been decided yet.
No, I'm glad Congress is dealing with such important stuff.
Yeah, seriously. I like DC, like, I'm sorry if we have anybody listening who's going to have power in the future, like DC deserves a cookie and more for enduring these last 20 months. It's just been one blow after another from this frickin' administration.
So you don't like those giant new golden horse statues that look like a P.F. Chang's?
I don't like P.F. Chang statues in my city. I don't like a lot of my friends getting laid off from jobs that they really enjoyed. Yeah. I don't like having National Guard troops twiddling their thumbs and just sort of weirding people out doing nothing on my streets.
Oh, that was just very noticeable when I was there for TRV. Like just walking around the city, there's just groups of National Guard just chilling on corners.
No, it really sucks. Even to be in all seriousness, last year was the worst year on record for DC restaurants in terms of closures. And that's partly because we had a lot of layoffs and a lot of people are fearful about maintaining their income. And, this is what happens. Like Trump has just been so awful for this city. And, I hope we get to keep our speed safety cameras, but that if we do, it's just because the Republicans couldn't get out of their own way. So TBD.
One other thought on this. I'm looking more closely at that tweet from Secretary Duffy. In the bottom of it, he has a picture of himself, and there's a quote from him where he's talking about Donald Trump, where he basically says, America's fortunate to have a builder in the White House, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of it, he talks about how that builder is putting money into aviation and transit projects that move American families, which is not what is happening.
Duffy's just in over his head. I don't know.
By the way, they have had plenty of time to do this kind of stuff, but they never put out that reality show we talked about, like the Great American Family Road Trip.
Yeah. That's a big story this week is that no one knows what happened to the big American road trip show with him and his family, where they apparently raised millions of dollars from companies that the agency regulates. And nobody asked for this, by the way. The whole thing is so
it was supposed to be part of like our big July 4th celebration. You could sit down with your family and watch his family go on a road trip.
Yeah, no, we're really all missing out. Really all missing out.
Where is that? Like, what happened?
Yeah. How will we ever live? All right. Maybe I've got a roundabout topic as well that touches on bike lanes too. Because we talked about how the federal government is a threat to bike lanes. Well, another threat potentially are robo-taxis. So in DC, actually, we have a big controversy now about the future of robo-taxis. We had a big hearing a couple of weeks ago that made national news because Waymo is chomping at the bit to deploy here, and some of the other companies want to come as well. while a lot of people, myself included, are like, what's the hurry? I'm not sure this is a good thing or a necessary thing. But in the course of like marathon hearing about robotaxis in DC, there was a topic came up like, well, what about Waymo blocking bike lanes when it does pickups and drop off in other cities, particularly in San Francisco? And there's a bit of a back and forth, and then a comms person for Waymo tweeted saying, "Oh, well, San Francisco residents will say we don't really do that. We go around the block to do pickups and drop offs because we don't want to intervene in a bike lane." And so I actually was working on a story at that point about robotaxis and bike lanes. So I got a hold of Christopher White, who leads SF Bikes. Do you know him? That's like the big bike advocacy group in San Francisco.
I know of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, yeah, that's not true at all. They block bike lanes all the time. The Waymos are blocking the bike lanes all the time. It's a huge issue. So I think this is actually an interesting point because, and I wrote a whole article sort of exploring this issue of Waymos and robotaxis writ large, but at this point, mostly Waymos that are doing pickups and drop-offs in bike lanes, which is objectively illegal in California and in some, but not all other places. It's interesting because this is all voluntary, right? Like it's not like Waymo says, oh, we have to violate traffic laws sometimes to be safe. Like if there's a moving van blocking a street. Well, sure, you go around it, you go across a double yellow because there's no other way, you have no alternative. You have to go forward. But blocking a bike lane to do a pickup or drop off is voluntary. Like you can always, or almost always, do a pickup or drop off like a block further away. It's a mild inconvenience to the passenger, but it's safer. It's all about a matter of programming and choice by the company. So I find this to be an interesting tension because obviously lots of human drivers and ride-hail drivers block bike lanes constantly. But it's not obvious at all, I would say, that the robotaxi companies are that much of better civic actors here. So I'll throw it over to you, Wes. What do you think of this little tension?
All right, so I guess my take is that there are two things going on here. Like first, Waymo literally programmed their vehicles to do this.
Yep.
Like maybe not in the cartoon villain sense, is like where they're not saying go block the bike lane, but in the sense that they program them to allow this, to facilitate this. It's an acceptable place to stop under some conditions in the way that they program these vehicles. The second thing I say is that part of the blame should be on us because we built bike lanes where not only is this possible, but it's easy and it's oftentimes is the best place for them to stop. So if all that separates a bike lane from a robotaxi is some paint, then we shouldn't be shocked when the robotaxis treat that paint like a suggestion and just pull into it.
Yeah. Yeah. That actually, you basically are leading into what I think is the actual solution here. It's certainly not expecting robotaxis to solve this on their own. They're not going to. Waymo is not going to voluntarily adopt practices that make the ridership experience inferior to its main competitors, which are taxis and ride-hail.
But shouldn't they? Like, shouldn't we be holding Waymo to a higher standard than the Uber and Lyft drivers? I mean, because they've had all these claims on safety.
Right.
And, right? I feel like we have to hold them to a higher standard. We can't just say, that's Uber and Lyft does it too.
Well, that's a legitimate point. I got into that in the article I did with Driverless Digest, or the guest article, because it's true. Like Waymo sort of set itself up for this by constantly banging the drum of safety. And it turns out that safety is about more than crashes. It's about predictable and law-abiding behavior. And that's a little bit more nuanced. And Waymo doesn't really want to have that conversation in the same way. So you're right. I think that it's fair to criticize Waymo, but Waymo's not going to fix this on its own, I don't think. I think the fix, you already were going straight there, is to harden bike lanes, actually make them protected so you can't actually pull over into them. And potentially, we talked about this a few episodes ago, adopt automatic enforcement so that vehicles that block a bike lane are, you're going to get a fine of $100. I think we'll very quickly see behavior change among robotaxis as well as human-driven cars because they don't want to spend the money. That's the way to deal with it, I really think.
Yeah, no, those two things make sense. And I would add a third to the list, like better curb management. So part of that might be pricing parking in a way. There is always an empty spot on most blocks. In a place like San Francisco where they've tried SF Park and they've tried to do the Shoop thinking in terms of pricing and trying to make sure there's always a space or two free, like that could be part of the solution too, where, you know, hardening the bike lanes might solve most of it, but it could just move the problem somewhere else too. And having that and the cameras and better curb management, like that is going to, I think, solve the problem to a much better extent than we are doing it now.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, taking a sort of step back, we've talked about how the federal government is sort of turning against bike lanes right now. Hopefully that changes, but for the next couple of years, we're probably stuck with that. And robotaxis are potentially putting bike lanes under additional pressures as well. You know, I really do think that this comes down to what cities are willing to do to protect people cycling, because there's not going to be like a knight in shining armor coming to save the day. I don't think there is.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, I'd also say like the reason all this is happening is because cities have been doing a lot of amazing things over the last 10, 15 years, like with bike lanes and stuff like that. So success has led to this, at least partially. I mean, so maybe we need to take a lesson from them and maybe not brag about our successes as much.
Well, I mean, there is something here about like, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We've talked about that before on the podcast.
And hopefully we're not going to take 3 steps back in this case, between everything that's happening.
Yeah, I actually, I'm relatively optimistic we're not going to take 3 steps back. I think that I want to give credit to bike share systems, because I think that they've sort of democratized cycling in so many cities that I think a lot of people feel like they've got some skin in the game with cycling infrastructure in a way that wasn't the case 15, 20 years ago. So I believe. Do we have time for a mailbag question? Maybe, do you think?
Yeah, I think perfect.
We always love getting questions from our listeners and viewers. So if you've got questions, you can always send them to us at lookbothwayspodcast.com. Easy to reach us through that. And here's one from Dan, who wrote us from West Palm Beach. And he asked how we feel about publications creating their own quote unquote safety metrics for cities using things like DUI and other data points. How reliable is something like this, and how does it affect public perceptions of safety? And I want to describe what he shared as an image for this. I think you've seen stuff like this, Wes, before. I know I have. But in this case, it's from Visual Capitalist, which is sort of like a pretty popular social media thing that I see on LinkedIn from time to time. But it's a big image saying America's most dangerous cities for driving. And there's a bar chart showing how dangerous each city is. Memphis, Tennessee is the absolute worst. It's on a score of 0 to 100. And the things that factor in supposedly are speeding, DUI, and quote unquote bad driving, whatever that means. So there's a long list, and Memphis is number 1. Looks like Caryville, Texas is number 2 for being the worst. And the list goes down from there. Detroit's bad. Grand Rapids is bad. Kansas City's bad. What do you think about lists like this?
I kind of laugh at them because a lot of them are not steeped in much at all. You always see those lists of where the worst drivers are, like in America, and it'll be like Boston is always up there. But at the same time,
well, that might be true.
But Massachusetts is like the safest state in the country.
No, but they're such jerks. I used to live there. I'm just kidding. I just wanted to piss you off. Go ahead. Keep going.
No, but I think I see a difference. They're aggressive, and I think if you know that, like,
I know objectively, of course, you're right. Like Boston has like one of the lowest per capita death rates from crashes in the country.
But then you go to other places, and like maybe they're not as aggressive, but then they're just going through red lights randomly. Like that's the one thing I noticed here in Denver. Like so many more drivers go through red lights. And it's like, what the frig is happening? Like that's where the safety issues come from. That you don't get that in places like Boston much, because I think the drivers are actually better in that respect. So these lists, there's so much that goes into something like DUI. And it's like an enforcement. Like if place puts out more enforcement, they're going to get more people arrested. Does that mean there's more or less drinking in a place? Probably not. I was up in we talked about me going to Fargo on one episode, and I was out to dinner with some folks, and I did not have drinks because I was going to be driving someplace, and they're like, "What are you doing?" Like that's just the standard in North Dakota. Like you have a few drinks and you drive. I was like, "Yeah, I'm good, man." Like, but I don't think anyone's getting arrested for it nearly as often as you might someplace else. So is Fargo safer because there's fewer DUI arrests, or is it less safe because there's less enforcement? So there's a lot of conflating issues that you can't control for in anything like this. But like in that case, like, yeah, Memphis is really dangerous for pedestrians. So maybe they got that one right.
Yeah, I mean, true. Memphis is dangerous for pedestrians, but there's so much that's missing here. Like you didn't even mention like road design. Like that's a point too. Like some cities have road design that sort of protects people to a degree from distracted or, bad driving, and other places don't. Right? Like slower, like this is the core of Vision Zero, is that you design streets in a way such that, a driver mistake doesn't lead to someone getting killed. That's nowhere on lists like this usually, because they just basically pin it on, individual driving quality. I find these sorts of rankings in general to be an easy way. It's like clickbait. It's just, it's fun to sort of see where your city ranks. It doesn't actually mean anything. And this is on a scale of 0 to 100 that particularly doesn't mean anything. So
I
whatever.
Will say, I do from time to time get emails from those weird websites asking me to put together these lists for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never respond. I was like, no, but I mean, so yeah, I'm kind of lashing out at the people making dumb lists, but I guess I could have done it myself and created a better version of it.
Yeah, well, but you did, or maybe just say like, actually, we should be looking at deaths per capita, which is really what we should be using as a gold standard, right?
I got a whole book about that, and I joke as well. Like the easiest way to make a street safe for pedestrians is make the street so goddamn unsafe for pedestrians that no one in their right mind would ever walk there. Like, but that's not what we want. That's not real safety, and like these lists can't dig into that sort of thing. So starting at fatalities per capita or something to that extent is a much fairer way to look at stuff. But yeah, it's not all apples to apples either. Yeah. So I don't know. You're right. These lists are clickbait.
I think they're crap. Yeah. I'll be blunt about it. I think they're useless. But it was a good question. So Dan, I appreciate
they're
you
not
asking.
Infuriating. They don't make me angry. I just kind of scoff at them and move on with my life whenever I see them.
You're a mature man, Wes. It's one of the reasons I respect you. What do you think? Do we have time for one more question, or should we move on?
Yeah, we can do one more.
All right, we'll do one more. This one's going to be very fun for me. I knew that last one would be good for you. But Colin, I don't know where Colin is. Colin asks if from Parts Unknown, right? He asked if each of you were the head of the U.S. Department of Transportation, how would you solve car bloat? Specifically, I'd like to hear what policies you would pitch if you didn't care about being renominated, and those you might pitch if because you think they're more politically palatable. So I just hit you with this. So maybe I'll go first and give you a chance to think so I can steal your ideas or go for it, and I don't have to worry about leaving you with nothing to say. So if I don't care about being renominated, I would pitch weight-based taxes. Have fees that rise with how heavy a vehicle is. I think that makes a ton of sense, and it's what other countries like Norway and France do, and we should be doing it too. I would also say that this is more of it's not really US DOT, but I would push the states to do it, to require special licenses for people who have the very biggest vehicles like an F-250. That should, like a Ford F-250 truck. I think that makes a lot of sense as well, because these things have huge blind spots. And just because you're safe driving a sedan doesn't mean you have any idea how to make sure that people around you will be safe when you're driving a giant monster truck. And then if I did care about being reelected at USDOT, or be renominated, I should say, then the things I think are more politically palatable, I would legalize faster mini cars like they are in Japan, East Asia, and in Europe, because we just don't allow them the way that those parts of the world do. And I would finally adopt serious pedestrian and cyclist vehicle safety standards like Biden attempted to do at the last year of his presidency, and now Trump has frozen this proposal that cars to be legally sold in the U.S. would have to achieve a minimum safety standard involving like a pedestrian's head hitting the front of the car. We could do a lot more standards like that, and I think it's so intuitive how valuable they are. People would be behind it by and large, and it would mainly affect the biggest, most dangerous vehicles. That's what I would do.
All right, I think we're done. No,
Did you have anything else?
No, with the first
this is like
one,
something I've written like 30 freaking articles about, so I hope I have some good ideas.
We've touched on these before too. Like with the first one though, like is that a federal type thing? Like,
oh yeah,
I know.
Taxes on new cars,
tariffs,
baby, tariffs. Hell yeah,
like
this is the one tariff that's good.
Like the local sales tax I pay when I buy a new car, like that could also be weight based, and I think DC has something like that. No,
that's not for sales. The DC one is about registration. Yeah, that's a state-based registration.
So there are ways to price in weight at various levels. It doesn't have to be at just at the federal level, but you're right. I mean, that's one place to start, and I totally agree with that. Our safety metrics for how safe a car is shouldn't entirely focus on just the occupants of that car. They should also take into account pedestrians or bicyclists or whoever, like even occupants of other cars. Like if you get hit by a big SUV in another car, you're more likely to die too. It's not just the more vulnerable road users, but some of that could also be priced into insurance. I'm not sure how to do this if you're like head of USDOT, but like our insurance rates don't really speak to the fact that you're more likely to do damage to other people in one car versus the other. Like that could be priced in somehow in some way at all these different levels. And, you know, gas does it a tiny bit, but not nearly enough. So I don't know, there has to be a way to make people more cognizant of overall safety as opposed to just safety of themselves, and also pricing it in a way where those externalities are accounted for in various ways. So big picture, like all of the things you mentioned are heading in the right direction. I just kind of throwing on little 2 cents on some of them. Yeah.
I mean, look, in an ideal future, I think we'd have distance-based road pricing, right? That takes the place of the gasoline tax. And then you could have the fee per mile driven to be different based on time of day. So you're paying more if it's a congested time or a congested road. It could be more if you are in a very polluting car, more if you're in a really big car that creates negative externalities in terms of safety. The point is you can capture all kinds of externalities, at least theoretically, with a distance-based road fee. Are we about to do that? No. I
think, if you're thinking beyond just the carb load, getting rid of the gas tax in general is probably where I would start if I was head of USDOT and trying to come up with a VMT-based way to do it. I mean, because that is where you can incentivize better safety, big picture, in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. I think it actually is a way of addressing carb load as well as a lot of other issues. It's just, first of all, it's a long way away. And second of all, it's not specifically a carb load tactic, I would say. It's really sort of a general improvement to transportation financing.
But you're right in that all VMT is not created equal, and not just when and where it is, but also what type of vehicle you're in, and pricing it in that way could get at a lot of this in one kind of fell swoop, where you're not having to nickel and dime everybody at every different level. But it's not politically palatable. We've never been able to even increase the gas tax based on inflation, let alone redesign it in this way. So it's a long shot.
This is not going to happen overnight, but it's important to keep in mind. And look, if you're listening to this podcast, we consider you guys and gals to be the tip of the spear, putting these ideas out there in front of people. So let's expand that Overton window. What can I say? And I think that brings us to Rail Drinks, where we have a little toast because it's happy hour time where you are, Wes, more dinner time where I am. But I have a little bit. I've got to give me a second to pour my beverage this time for Rail Drinks. Do you have yours all ready to go?
I do. I want to crack it open here. And you did mention that Fabio is reading Jaws.
I did.
The beer I have, Narragansett, so Gansett Lager. It's a Rhode Island staple. For those that are from New England, this is kind of like the Coors Light of that region. And I got a special box of these it's like the 1975 limited can edition. And the cover of the box has Jaws. It's like the Jaws edition of the Narragansett Lager. So that's what I have today.
But Jaws took place in Long Island, didn't it?
No, it's like more like Martha's Vineyard. But
is that right? Oh, maybe I'm mistaken. Okay.
The same year that Jaws came out is 1975 is the same year that I guess Narragansett Lager started, and this is the can they had at that time. So it's a summer drink in New England, and I drink it here as well. But Narragansett Lager, that's what I got today.
Nice. Well, I respect it, and I, on the other hand, have I was in South Italy earlier this summer. With my wife, and I'm realizing how douchey I sound as I say that. But it's too late; it's already out. I know you're not going to cut this out of the podcast. So I'm just going to plow forward and pretend nothing's wrong. Just keep going. That's right. His motto for life: keep going. Just keep going. But we were in Puglia, like the heel of Italy, like where Bari and Brindisi are, and that is where it's home to. I'm not a huge wine guy, but ever since like I did a wine tasting when I was in my mid-20s, I've liked Primitivo. Do you know Primitivo?
No, I'm not a wine guy.
You're not a wine guy. It's a red grape. It's sort of good, earthy and just delicious.
At some point in my life, I decided that I like beer and whiskey much better than wine, so why bother with it? So I've kind of just stopped drinking it.
Yeah, I'm not really, as I think people who listen regularly can tell, like you're usually drinking beer and whiskey, and that's that. I jump here and there.
You have a much bigger range of drinks in your arsenal.
Yeah, I'm multi-talented in my drinking. But
I used to be more in that vein of like open to anything, but I feel like at some point I'm too old for that crap. I don't want to drink that.
Imagine you drink like peach schnapps and Malibu and God knows what. But
no, it might be just weird. Like, you go to some Chinese restaurant with a giant fishbowl of some glow in the dark blue drink. You're like, what even is this? And at one point in my life, I didn't really care. Now I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, I'd rather just get something else.
I respect that. But Primitivo is the kind of wine that I really like. So I had a bottle that we just opened last night that we brought back from Italy, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to have a glass of it when I'm done with this podcast with Wes. So that's what I'm doing.
That's a good choice.
On that note, cheers, Wes.
Cheers.
So this brings us to the end of yet another episode. Exciting stuff. Our next live stream will be in exactly 2 weeks at 6 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, August 18th. Everyone is welcome to join us live. Of course, there'll be an audio, as always, soon afterwards. And if you're hungry for more, I think, what is this? Is this episode 27?
27 plus a couple bonus episodes in there. So yeah.
Wow. So if you cannot get enough of
actually the
Wes and me,
season 2 kind of, because last
season
time
2
was our
if we do it in terms of seasons, I don't know. Fine, it's season 2 if you want it to be season 2.
This is year 2.
Oh, it's year 2. That's true. But if you want to get caught up, all of our episodes are available for free at lookbothwayspodcast.com. You can also email us there. We love hearing from you, our listeners. And if you enjoy the podcast, please tell a friend about it. And with that, see you, Wes, in a couple weeks.
All right. Good to see you.